right, let's list things that Coloradans like. You got hiking, you got green chili, dogs, skiing, the Broncos even when they stink, and voting. Coloradans like voting. I mean, really abnormally like voting. Our state has the highest percentage of registered voters in America. Each one of us gets a mail ballot, so mailing out 3 million of them, as they are doing today, that's an event.
It's a big week for us. We expect about 2.2 million ballots to go through this facility alone.
This is the Denver General Mail facility. It's the size of 7 football fields. We have about 1,800 employees that work here.
Good to see you.
This is Will Love. He's maestro. We have one of our high-speed processing machines. It does about 35,000 pieces an hour. And we have employees that are feeding the letters through there. And what they do is it sorts it out by barcode. Eventually it sorts it out to the carrier. So when the carrier goes, it's all right in delivery order along with all of his other mail.
Everything has already been offloaded in that one trailer already.
It's something that we are very attuned to this time of year because we want to help democracy. We're part of the whole process.
We want to push those ballots through just as fast as possible. So as soon as they come in the back door, they get verified, they get paid for. They're coming back down here, they're getting broken down and put on these machines so they could get out to the carriers as soon as possible.
All the ballots are going out, that you should get them in your mailbox sometime this week.
If you are not registered to vote or you are not sure, you can still get in on the action. GoVoteColorado.com is the website. There you can also check the status of that mail ballot as well. Tomorrow is debate night on 9 News. Marshall Zellinger and I will moderate our debate in the race for governor. Republican Walker Stapleton, Democrat Jared Polis. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. live from the CSU campus in Fort Collins. It airs on Channel 20, on the 9 News app, and on Facebook. We have a stack of questions, might just get some answers. Maybe we'll get chippy like Denver City Council last night.
If you don't respect the rules of this chamber, then we have no democracy.
Ooh, crack of the gavel in a chamber better known for the softer sound of rubber stamping all of Mayor Hancock's decisions. But Denver City Council members actually got after it on affordable housing last night. They were arguing over an ordinance that would lock in the city's deals with developers and business owners who hold affordable housing. Now, council was agreed that they want to extend these affordable housing deals from 20 years to 60 years. The issue was over whether the vote was rushed. So here is the scenario. Denver has 21,000 housing units that are classified as affordable, and the city helps pay for almost 8,000 of them. When the building owners signed deals to get money from the city in return for making their housing affordable, they agreed to keep their rent at a certain level for 20 years. But now stuff's starting to phase out. Today, almost 2,000 of those affordable units are within 5 years of their expiration. The Hancock administration is pushing for this new 60-year deal. There's a subsidy of $40,000 to $50,000 per unit.
This is really a compromise between where we've been on the low end of affordability and looking at perpetuity and balancing where we think the life of real estate is. That 60 years is really about the life of a building.
This issue is going to continue to be discussed. New contracts for the extended affordable housing won't be signed until February of next year. Affordable housing is the #1 concern, stated as such by Denver Mayor Michael Hancock and his newest challenger in the race. Hancock and community activist Lisa Calderon agree on that. Calderon kicks off her run for mayor tomorrow. The frequent critic of her fellow Democrat told me that the Hancock administration has not done enough to make Denver an affordable place to live.
The #1 issue is we're going to look at things through a housing first lens. Everything connects to housing, and whether we're talking about transportation or, traffic congestion, education, if people don't have a place to live that works for their lives and the fluidity of their lives of going in and out of life stages, then, everything else kind of falls by the wayside. So I just don't think that this administration has put enough emphasis. We have a housing crisis, and it should be treated that way.
Do you believe that Michael Hancock has the moral authority to lead the city?
I think he's lost the moral authority. I think that if he would have been up front, fully disclosed with specificity about what he did and took responsibility, And not only that, it's more than an apology, is how are you changing the policies to make sure that you hold people accountable, namely yourself. And so in talking to many women, and especially in this climate, with everything that's coming out of Washington, they are angry and frustrated oftentimes that they do not feel heard and protected by the most powerful seat in this city, and that's the mayor of Denver.
Last question. Is there any current initiative or project in this city that you would stop in its tracks if you became mayor?
Yes, the I-70 expansion. It's a 10-lane highway expansion. We were told one thing about it being essentially great for the communities, yet the community people are suffering with that expansion. Their streets are being shut down. Being exposed to constant noise now 24/7. There can be a different way of being a multimodal city without basically wrecking through people's backyards.
And you believe that it is within the mayor or a future mayor's power to stop that project?
I think it's within the mayor's power to wield influence. And if you bring the right players together, including the community residents, and create an equal playing field, then many things can happen that are not possible under this administration now.
My full conversation with Lisa Calderon, including when I asked her whether constant criticism of the mayor over the years might actually be a liability in the race. You can see it all on the next YouTube channel. That massive medical campus on the east side of town got the kind of news today that sent them scrambling toward our cameras this time. It's very good news for the University of Colorado Hospital, which as of now is officially a level 1 trauma center, one of just 5 in Colorado. All that really means that the hospital is going to be able to take in more seriously injured patients, people like Archie Chant. 2 years ago, his car was hit head-on by a truck in Wyoming. He broke 17 bones that day and nearly died. He came back today to congratulate the place that brought him back to the life he loved.
It's a high honor, and it's probably very well deserved. I tell people a lot that had I not got here, I don't know if I would be here.
The other level 1 trauma centers in Colorado are Swedish, Denver Health, St. Anthony, and Memorial down in the Springs. The moving obituary of a young mother who lived in Boulder for a time is a plea to view people with addiction as people first, humans struggling to fight a disease, not people to be dismissed. Madeline Linsenmeyer passed away Sunday at the age of 30. Her obituary began going viral last night. It frankly talks about how she dealt with addiction to opiates beginning at the age of 16. Her obituary discusses this in brutally honest and sometimes uncomfortable detail. Madeline spent part of her life in Boulder after she grew up in Vermont and Florida. Her family says she was a born performer with a beautiful voice. When her son Aiden was born, they say that she transformed her life in an attempt to stay sober. A relapse took her life. Her obituary is a convincing case for seeing past addiction and meeting people with support and empathy. You can read it on the next Facebook page. Our condolences to all in Colorado who knew Madeline Linsenmeyer.
Just being here is something rare.
No.
For 5-year-old Maren Stecken. This is kindergarten at the school in Creed. This is a normal part of life.
So do you mind answering some questions for them?
Maren's mom, Honey Stecken, wasn't sure she'd get to. Genetic testing revealed Maren had a rare metabolic disease.
The moment those words came out, propionic acidemia, I mean, it was the worst case scenario.
It could make you very, very, very sick.
So the median lifespan is 5.
Under a strict diet, Maren can attend school, due in large part to a medicine that stabilizes her bodily functions.
Come on.
But just being here creates something rare.
It's kind of like, wow, I can picture my kid, she's going to go to school and you're very excited. But then there's this.
The medicine causes a chemical reaction in Maren's body, leaving her with a problem that sounds funny.
It just smells almost like rotten fish.
But is very serious.
My little girl is walking around smelling so bad that people do not want to be around her.
After years of frustration, Honey found this webpage and a product meant for feminine hygiene that prevents the chemical reactions which causes the odors. Now Maren could play with her classmates.
Guys, come here and
Now Marin can get dragged around the floor.
Like all those images in my mind of not being asked to prom or maybe not having friends.
Now Marin's scent is just like any other kid's. Just being here, turning something rare into someone normal.
It will not be her problem. It's not her problem anymore.
Latina for me means family.
Being Latino to me means having pride in my heritage.
It means being part of a community where you're never alone.
Being Latina is being strong and independent.
Being Latino is really everything to me.
It's who I am.
Being Latina to me means that I can achieve whatever I want.
What Latina means to me is being bold.
It's being creative, innovative, resourceful.
Being Latina means celebrating life in a unique way.
From the sidelines to the front office, get the inside story from the ultimate insider. Broncos Sideline Stories with Jim Sacamano. Saturday nights at 9:30 on Channel 20.
It's sort of the ultimate way to pay it forward, if you think. Donating your body to science. Now, that said, you don't just want to do it. You want to know where you're going to end up. Arno Brand started looking into this, and it kind of took you down a dark road.
It kind of did. So this all started with an email that I got. Email from Pam. She was interested in donating her body to science when she dies, but she didn't trust her research skills, so she got a hold of me. I went looking for answers and was inundated with news stories about body brokers. These are businesses that will take donated bodies, dissect them, and then sell the parts for profit. Now, selling organs, that is illegal, but there's no federal or state law that regulates the sale of whole bodies or body parts for research. So if this sounds familiar, you might have heard the story about Sunset Mesa Funeral Directors in Montrose. The FBI raided that place in February. The owner is accused of dismembering bodies that were supposed to be cremated and then selling those for medical research. Colorado passed a law this year that makes it illegal for someone to own a funeral home and a body donation company. But some think that the state needs to do more than this. Attorney Michael Berg represents about 50 people impacted by the Montrose case. He's wary of anyone donating a body to science because he has examples of body broker businesses misleading people and bodies ending up where no one really expected.
We had a woman who wanted to donate her husband's brain for Alzheimer's. They told her they would do that, when in fact what they did was cut up that body, sell it on the black market, and in fact used most of the torso to be blown up by the Department of Defense.
So the Colorado Funeral Directors Association said in February what happened in Montrose, that was an isolated case. And they recommend people interested in organ or full body donation make sure that they're working with an organization that's accredited by the American Association of Tissue Banks.
So the best, most reputable way to do this if people are interested.
Yeah, so do your research. Look into those companies that you want to work with. Make sure that you're not signing any releases unless you can be told exactly where your body is going to be ending up. And if you want to reach out directly to hospitals or universities, that's a good bet too, because they're likely working with some reputable companies.
You mentioned universities. We were talking offline about this. This is a story I don't think I've ever shared before. My great-great-grandfather died in a homeless shelter during the Depression. His body was donated to science. University of Minnesota, they kept meticulous records. I mean, all this time later could tell me exactly what happened, down to this is the plot that he's in at the cemetery. So if you get linked up with the right people, there is a respectful way to do it.
Absolutely, and if they keep records like that, it's incredible.
All right, Noel, thank you.
Hi there, we're just cruising through this week as our slow warming trend continues. We had blue skies today and temperatures warmer in the mid-50s. Still a few degrees shy of the average of 65, but we're heading in that direction. We're keeping our eye on this little area of low pressure cut off from the main flow, the main jet stream flow. The jet stream is lifting north, so all that cold air is following the jet into the Midwest. But this low in Arizona, while it lifts, should shear apart, not really affect the weather here along the Front Range. But for those out west, those making snow in the southern mountains, this Arizona low could be great news with more snow coming in to areas like Wolf Creek and Telluride. We'll see an influx of high and mid-level cloud cover around here and maybe a foothill shower. We need the moisture, but it is awfully nice to have the sunshine and the warming trend. And tonight, not nearly as cold. We'll drop to 32, which is where we start tomorrow, so probably a jacket if you're headed out earlier to the bus stop. Mid-50s, high and mid-level clouds in the afternoon, and then 60s for Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I put a 70 in there for Sunday, mid-60s on Monday and Tuesday, and maybe an isolated shower coming in on Tuesday. But the snow guns are going up in the Colorado High Country and areas like Winter Park, just hoping Mother Nature will lend another helping hand.
Kathy, thank you. If you can't read it or prefer not to, you can listen to Colorado's advice for voters. That and a grandmother who learned how to use hashtags to get her question on next.
For Thomas, also known as Detour in the art world, work continues night and day. He's moving on from his usual subjects.
Painted Jay-Z, of course, right here.
To paint people who aren't world famous, but fascinating.
This is me. It's roses mixed with line work and my face.
He's drawing attention to the lives of local women of color.
A lot of times when a lot of people of color go to a museum, it's really hard to find individuals that kind of look like us in these masterpieces. So for me, it's really important to start putting people of color, especially females, in my life on these beautiful portraits. So that way, in 100 years, people will look back and say, okay, they were represented, they were here.
And his muse, Tanya Soleil, is an artist in her own right.
And I want you to see right through me, to the depths of me.
And her face is popping up all over town.
So I painted Tanya 3 times.
I think this one might be my favorite. You only see what's on the surface, but you have to dive deep into a person to see who they are. It makes me proud and it makes me grateful that I could be an inspiration to someone.
The colors on these walls radiate confidence.
That girl portrays determination.
And it's reactions like that.
And now they have something beautiful to stare at with a positive message.
That keep Detour working day after day.
To take people from these neighborhoods and to amplify us, it's kind of like we're still leaving our mark.
I want them to feel proud about themselves and how they look and who they are.
I know people don't always believe this, but I'm allowed to speak my mind on this show, and I'm allowed to showcase your thoughtful perspectives, even if the bosses don't agree with them. That really does happen here. That's the strength of Next. It's important to hear things that we disagree with because, lo and behold, we might change our minds. We also want Next to be a reflection of you watching at home. You're smart, funny, and you're unapologetically honest, even when it gets you in trouble. And that's what we hope that the show is as well.
It's flu season. Protect your family. Find a 9 Health Fair near you and get a voucher for a free, convenient flu shot. You can also donate to provide a flu shot for a neighbor in need. Help your community stay healthy. For details, go to 9healthfair.org.
Let's hope that train doesn't stop, huh? Next viewer Lori Schwartz made us smarter today. She let us know that the people who run the Colorado Talking Book Library record the Blue Book Voter Guide each year, so it becomes an audio voting guide for people who can't read the literal fine print or can't hold that book.
The mission of the Talking Book Library is to provide,
tell me when you're ready, hon,
audio, braille, and large print books for people who can't read standard print.
Susan, you lost so much weight.
We've been here for over 85 years. This is the Bible as History by Werner Keller. We started with records, we moved to 4-track cassette tapes, and now we're in the digital world.
Amendment Y.
congressional redistricting.
So one of the things that a long time ago our patrons had requested was an audio version of the Blue Book.
To amend and approve congressional district maps drawn by nonpartisan legislative staff.
We are able to post it on our website and make it available to anybody in Colorado who would be interested in listening to the Blue Book.
Amendment 73. Funding for public schools.
So the Blue Book every year is different length, and this year it was quite long.
Summary and analysis.
The tradition in this program is to record cover to cover.
Formula funding begins with the same amount of funding per student.
It was quite an extensive project,
with smaller districts receiving more funding.
Providing an audio version of the legislative Blue Book is definitely a great public service. I think I'm a little biased, but I'm more than happy that we are able to provide that.
We've told you this year's Blue Book, it's a big one, and the audio book is 6.5 hours long. It's broken up into smaller sections for easy listening. Our next question comes from a viewer named Judy Johnson. Judy wonders how fast the train at DIA goes in between the concourses. Judy, that is a great question, and we also need to thank Judy's granddaughter Ellen, who says she taught her grandmother how to use hashtags so that she could send in her question to Next on Twitter. We reached out to DIA for the answer. They say the average speed of the train terminal out to Concourse C and back, including the stops and switches, it averages out to 10 miles per hour. Top speed of the train is 30 miles per hour, so it'll hit that in between the concourses before it slows down for the curves. Keep those questions coming. Email next@9news.com or use the hashtag HeyNext like Judy and all the other cool kids. You guys just are on the prowl every single day looking to tell somebody you've crossed a line. And we've got a twofer for you today. Sandra Nimmo spotted this outside of a Dunkin' Donuts. She wondered if this might be a competition by these drivers in Littleton. You know, first one, Acura, comes in there, goes, look at me, I can cross the line. And the other one's like, oh, I can do much worse than that. You know how to get in touch with us when you see something funny like that. Next, we'll be right back.
Anonymous letter into our office, and it was from a grandmother, and she was concerned about the library being overrun with crime. Thanks to her tip, we went down there and we put a spotlight on the issues going on at the Denver Library, and immediately the city went in there and they enhanced security. Today we can say the library feels like a library again. It's a brighter place, it's a safer place for kids, it's a safer place for employees. It's a real testament to how the community can really have a voice.
The Broncos Huddle, Wednesday nights at 6:30 on 9 News.
Photography, as I say, is just one of the underpinnings of who I am. It keeps me going, and it's very crucial to my mindset as a creative person. My name's Scott Wilson. I'm a Colorado landscape and wildlife photographer. So you can imagine we made our dream move to Colorado in July 2015, and it really was a very exciting time for our family. Children settled very quickly. My wife loves it here, and we really thought we'd made it. And then 1 year later, we had the awful news that I had stage 4 colon cancer, having had a colonoscopy, and that was the diagnosis. So for that moment, you feel like life has stopped. Of course, the reality is life hasn't stopped. One of the things I've tried to develop through this is a really positive mindset, and that once you have had that diagnosis, the healing can begin. So after surgery to my colon, I had about 13 centimetres removed, and then started a 40-week programme of chemotherapy. That's when my oncologist told me that one of the side effects of the drug that I was on is a very severe photosensitivity. So basically I had to avoid sunlight while I was going through chemotherapy. And it was like being punched twice. Like, you've got cancer, oh, and by the way, you can't shoot. And I thought, well, that's not how I want to live my life. So I just looked for different ways to shoot. And then over the course of a year, I found I'd built a portfolio, and I talked to a really good friend about, I've got this idea. Do you think this would work as a fundraising book? And he said, go for it. And to date, we've managed to raise $36,000. The book's purpose, if you like, was more than raising money. It was actually getting people to talk about cancer. And it's just so fulfilling to know that my images and my story have in some small way helped people.
It's a sign that any one of us can be a sort of voter guide for our neighbors. Jamie Perkins posted this nonpartisan How Voting Works series on the outside of her apartment door. She says it worked. New Coloradan just moved to the building and learned from those door signs how elections work in Colorado, followed the simple steps, got registered to vote. Reminder, you still can register to vote. So that's a bunch of signs, and I just absolutely love this. It represents the best of our state, reaching out to people and sharing what you know. If you see a sign that jumps out at you, email some pictures to next@9news.com or give us a shout with the hashtag HeyNext. Feedback finally tonight. Bob asks a very good question as we're fact-checking ads. He says, Kyle, who's fact-checking you? Well, you're welcome to do it, Bob, or anybody else. As everybody knows, our policy is to correct factual errors. They will happen here, as anywhere else, because we're human. So if you ever see something that we get wrong, factually, please do let us know. Speaking of just plain wrong, Audrey Reyes writes in to say, Kyle, who lied to you? Hashtag about that outfit. I've been lying to myself about this stuff for a long time, Audrey, but I appreciate your patience. We'll see you next time.